Hello everybody, this is DeanoGTO, and today we're going to be looking at some more world tanks. This time we're in the IS-6, the Tier 8 premium heavy tank for the Russians, which is the former best Tier 8 premium tank in the game. These days, I would not recommend you buy this tank, primarily because its days are long since past, in my opinion. This tank, in comparison to what it was back in the day, this thing has significantly less power on the battlefield in comparison to things like the Object 252, Chrysler K, T-26E5, the Liberté. All those tanks are just leagues above this tank in comparison to their overall, the overall influence they can have on the battle is just so much greater. Even though those tanks can be tier 10s, they can handle the tier 10s. This tank here really struggles versus tier 9s, whereas the other tanks can hold their own. Like, and I've actually seen Defenders and Chrysler Ks go head to head E75s and win, because you know those tanks are totally balanced. And I'm not talking about the tier 9s, I'm talking about the Defender, because well, Defender, Wargaming did a really good job balancing that tank. Good job, Wargaming, you did a great job balancing that tank, making sure it wasn't broken at all. And if you can't hear the sarcasm, well, I don't know what to say. But yeah, this tank here, I actually was of the opinion that this tank was a little too powerful for a long time. But in comparison to the new the newer premium tanks, this thing looks really underpowered in comparison, because the armor doesn't hold up at all in comparison to what it used to be. Even though when this thing was HDified, this used to be a weak point on the SD version, and they actually made it the same thickness as the overall front armor. And they also, I think, reduced the size of the cupolas and changed the sloping on the front of the turret. So overall, this thing got a significant buff in terms of its overall effective armor when it went to HD. But because it's facing off against tanks with higher and higher pen, and bear in mind, when this thing here was in its heyday, this thing was fighting T-44s with 175 pen. Or wait, was it 175 or 181? I can't remember. I think it was 175. It was fighting Pershings with 180 pen. There were so many tanks with significantly less pen than they have now. Like, this thing's armor works up to, I think, 200 millimeters of penetration. As soon as you have more than that, you're pretty much reliably going to go through the armor pretty consistently. It's a pretty clear distinction between a particular penetration level. Like if you have 190 pen, it's kind of like a 30% chance you're going to go through. If you have above 200, it's pretty much a 70% chance you're going to go through. That's just my experience when it comes to fighting these tanks. And yeah, sticking a shot in the side of the KV-3's turret, because well, who wouldn't take that shot? And because I was ignoring the actual gameplay, I should just point out, yeah, I absolutely annihilated that Tiger P, because well, he has a clear weak point, and that's what weak points used to look like. Wargaming, they used to be obvious, and they used to be a lot weaker than the rest of the armor. Like if you look at the Tiger P as an example, that had 200 millimeters of frontal armor. It's not sloped, but it had a weak point on the top to allow people to penetrate. It also has weak points to the sides as well, and the lower plate is weak. So that thing has plenty of weak points. Meanwhile, if you've ever actually, I should just go off a wee tangent here for a second. The 9.20 rebalance, they are not going anywhere near far enough with the nerfs to the Type 5's armor, Type 5 and Type 4. They're going nowhere near far enough. Like, the weak points, and I'm using weak points as in the quote, if you can see my quotations, those still have like 250, 260 raw armor, and any angling at all is going to bring that up to an insane amount of armor again. Those weak points are nowhere near as weak as they should be. In my opinion, with those tanks, they should just remove the cheek weak points, add actual frontal weak points. And when I say remove the cheek weak points, I mean, like, you know, the Tiger P style corner areas on the front side of the tank. They should remove those, remodel the tanks, remove those weak points completely, make them more of a Tiger 1 shape rather than a Tiger P shape, and then add frontal weak points back to the tank. I have them like 220 armor, 240 armor, or 220 to 240 armor, depending on depending on like the tier that they're at. Like the tier 10, I can see having 240 weak points, and the tier 9, I could see having like 220 weak points, just because like tanks of a lower tier should conceivably be able to actually penetrate higher tier heavy tanks. Like that's just my opinion. Like it used to be you could take on an IS-3 frontally with a tier 6 and you could potentially win if you're good enough. Like you could actually go one-on-one with an IS-3, and yeah, this used to be a weak point, but not really a weak point. The only reason why I aimed there, typically I would not aim at that point. The reason I aimed there at that time was because, well, he's like angled forward, which meant that it kind of negated his overall sloping on his frontal armor. And so far in this game, I'm actually on 3,400 damage. And by the way, sorry for that wee rant there about weak points. That was just like I think this tank here, actually thinking about it, was the beginning of the removal of weak points, as far as I can recall, because they removed the weak point from this tank here and then decided, oh, we may as well do this for every tank, and then they went way too far, way too many tanks have no weak points now, and it's a huge pain in the dick. Like if you look at the old school IS-3 in comparison to the IS-3 we have now, it's a completely different tank, because like the weak points are non-existent pretty much on the latest iteration of that tank. It's just got better and better with every single update that's happened to it. So yeah, but yeah, like back to the actual gameplay. I just finished off that T29 because, well, this tank here, annoyingly, when it comes to facing tanks like T29s, it can be kind of a 50-50 sometimes when it comes to actually penetrating them, because like they have those little like tracks on the front, and those tracks, as far as I can recall, do actually add to the actual overall effectiveness of the frontal armor. So yeah, like if you hit it at a bad angle or you hit like the wrong area on the frontal armor of that tank, it will pretty much guaranteed make your shot bounce. Yeah, it's kind of annoying to face those tanks sometimes with this tank, because like, bear in mind, this is the gun that you use on the KV-85. You can use this gun pretty much, well, I think it's got a different name on the KV-85, but it's got the same penetration. And yeah, I genuinely thought I killed him there for a second whenever that happened in the game. I was just like, no. I was like, I'm 1 kill off 6 kills, if you didn't notice. But yeah, like, I can't remember. Oh yeah, the KV-5. The KV-5 has pretty much just a significantly nerfed version of this gun, and yeah, this is something that really pisses me off right now about the game. If you're looking at that guy, is he facing forwards or backwards? It's really difficult to tell. I think is he facing forwards? I really could not tell, like, from that angle. Like, the silhouettes can be very misleading sometimes, but I have noticed, I think Wargaming have done something to the penetration indicator in the game. I think now if you're aiming at something that the game doesn't consider to be a weak point, it'll come up as blue if you're using colorblind mode, probably red if you're using non-colorblind mode. Like if you're aiming at the upper front plate on something that has very little armor, sometimes it will tell you, oh yeah, you're not going to penetrate this, even though you're pretty much guaranteed to pen it. The armor penetration indicator will tell you, no, you're not going to pin that. I'm just looking at it sometimes just going, really? You're telling me I can't pin that? Like, I had it happen the other day when I was facing against, what was it? It was a T-54. I was in, like, something that had, like, I can't remember the exact tank I was in, but it had, like, 225 pin or something like that there, and I was pinning in the front of the T-54 reliably, but it was giving me, like, it was giving me a blue penetration indicator, and I was just like, what is up with this? This seems really, really weird. But, yeah, I think they've changed something about it. I can't put my finger on what it is, but I think they've changed something about it. But yeah, this game is over. I'm on 5 kills. Sadly, didn't get the top gun, but I actually used all of my standard rounds, and you do need these 8 premium rounds in this tank. You cannot run this tank without premium rounds like I used to these days, because you need them to face off against the other premium tanks. Never mind tier 9s, just like the other premium tanks you're against, you really do need those premium rounds. But yeah, like, if you were to ask me now, would you recommend buying this tank? My answer would be a flat out hell no, because this situation, in my opinion, is only going to get worse as time goes on in terms of the balancing in the game. Like the premium tanks that are introduced, I can only see the situation for the IS-6 getting worse as the penetrations get higher, as they rebalance more and more tanks and make more and more tanks have the same penetration. Like there's even speculation now that because the 59 Patton is getting a 212mm pen standard round, that the M46KR and the Super Pershing are going to get it now. There's genuinely people saying that that's going to happen. I don't want that to happen. I want there to be unique playstyles in the game. Like, you need to be a bit more of a flanker in the American mediums, you need to be a bit more of a flanker in the Russian mediums too. So it's like these days people just want to have more and more penetration on their guns. I don't really agree with the way they're going. I don't mind minor buffs, but increasing the pen on something like the M46KR by 20mm, that would make that tank completely overpowered. It really would, because that tank is already really good in my opinion. I love that tank. But yeah, 20 extra pen on that gun would make that tank hilariously broken for a medium tank, at least. Like considering like the medium tank competition it's up against, I still would think the M46KR is top 3 in terms of the medium tanks, whereas tanks like the IS-6 in comparison to the other heavies in the game right now, I would rate this thing probably in the, I would say this thing's probably in the bottom 5 of the tier 8 premium tanks these days in comparison to like the other ones, because like things like the Lova used to be the worst tier 8 premium in the game for a long time. But they did a massive rebalance on that tank, and that tank is now, in my opinion, in the top 5 best premium tanks in the game right now. But that's my personal opinion, by the way. I should just point that out. Like, I really like the Lova. I enjoy playing it. That's why part of the reason why I often rate it so highly whenever I'm talking about premium tanks and stuff. But yeah, the IS-6, it has suffered massively in regards to like power creep. So yeah, but it doesn't mean it can't have good games, as you can see here. I mean, I did 4,700 damage, black 1,500 in armor, or with my armor, did 800 spot damage as well. So that's still a very good game. So this tank, in the right situation, can pretty much just beast mode the enemy team. But if you come across one of those new tier 8 premiums, like the only one I've found that I'm actually successfully able to beat in a one-on-one fight is the Patriot, and the only time that ever happens is when the Patriot decides to go brawling range with an IS-6, and that's never going to end well for the Patriot because, well, IS-6 390 alpha per shot, side armor on the T26C5 is awful, so you can just go like as soon as he shows a little too much side armor, you just go straight through like butter, and that's pretty much how I win versus those tanks. It's so easy to just demolish T26C5s at point blank range, but if they keep any kind of distance at all, you have no hope in hell of killing them. Yeah, in my opinion, like all of the new, like even facing off against an M449, you have no hope in hell. Chrysler, okay, no hope in hell. And the Defender, are you joking? IS-6 versus Defender? Oh, jeez, like they look like the Defender is the closest to a tier 9 we have ever had, a tier 8. So yeah, let's go on to the post game stats before I start rambling any further. So yeah, back in a second. Okay, so we are on to the post-game stats. As you can see, this was worth an ace tanker, and I got a high caliber in that game, which is pretty nice. Let's see, let's look at the actual details here. So 91,995 credits made in that game, 1,492 base XP, so that's really good XP score. But just to give you an idea of how much that's decreased by, it used to be the case that below, I think, 1,600 XP wouldn't get you an ace. Like, I think my first ace tanker in this tank was, I think, 1620 base XP. And that was, like, the amount. And, like, a few games earlier in that night, I had a 1550 base XP game, and that was a first class. Just to give you an idea of, like, how high the threshold used to be for this tank, like, just to get an ace. So, yeah, that's, like, one of the highest ace thresholds I've ever had to deal with. But, yeah. Let's go on to the team scores. So I came top of the team, 4,704 damage, 5 kills. Let's see. So the highest scoring tank on the enemy team was the Leuve, I suspect. He was probably limited by his slow reload. The reload is really the killer on the Leuve. I mean, I think I can get a faster reload on my IS-6 than the Leuve, and I do an extra 70 damage per shot. Granted, I have like, what is it, like 40? No. Wow, I have like 60 less pen than the Leuve. Wow, I didn't even realize how much of a difference there was there until I was thinking about it. But yeah, that was a tier 9 game, by the way. Actually, I I honestly completely forgot this was a tier 9 game. I don't think I faced a single tier 9 in that game. But yeah, like this is why I still don't understand people bitching and moaning about the matchmaking. And I still see it even now, even though it's been out for I think a patch or two now. People still bitch about the matchmaking, and I don't understand it because back when I started this game, a Panzer 38 NA could meet an E75. As far as I can recall, that was the way it could work. And I remember the first time I was in my Panzer 38 NA and I came up against a KV4 and I literally circled around the KV4 looking for a place I could pen him and there was no place anywhere on that tank where I could possibly append him. And this is before premium rounds were revealed for standard rounds, by the way. So yeah, people are moaning about this matchmaking. I actually quit the game for like a year after that happened, just rage, like just rage quit the game for a year. But yeah. Let's go on to the detailed report. So 19 shots fired, 16 direct hits, 14 penetrations. It's okay ratio considering it's a 122. Total damage 4,700. I've said that already. 1560 damage blocked by armor. 10 more than my actual overall health pool. Let's see anything else. And the actual credits actually made in that game was 64,000. See, this is one of the issues with the high shell cost on some tanks. Like this one here, as an example, has like 1,000 credits per shot. I think it is like 1,000 or 1,200 or something like that. It does do 390 damage, which does make up for that. But it is costly to fire this gun. It definitely is costly. Like I mean, 19 shots and it's costing me 19k. That really does cut into your profits sometimes. So I would say like the best way of like getting the most out of the cost of your shot is to go for a tank that has the highest damage to cost per shot ratio. Like I think from what I remember, the best ratio is I think the 88mm L71, but those guns are difficult to use at tier 8, very inconsistent. I think the second best ratio, I think off the top of my head, is the M4A1 Revelries, but even that tank is a bit of a pain in the ass sometimes because the gun will just miss sometimes. But yeah, I've got sidetracked a wee bit here. So overall, that was a pretty solid game. It was only 5 minutes 20 seconds, but that just shows you like how devastating this tank can be in a short period of time. Sometimes, whenever you get the right scenario, this tank can still hold its own. This tank can still be a monster. This kind of gives you like a glimpse as to what this tank used to be like. It used to be a complete monster, but these days that title now really goes to the Object 252 and tanks of that era. Those tanks are just so blatantly superior to the IS-6. It's not even funny, really. So. Yeah, I've heard rumors that they're potentially going to do something with the IS-6 to try and make it competitive again, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. But yeah, as far as I can think of, that's pretty much everything I really need to go over. Actually, that's good. That's a question I just thought of there. Let me know in the comments. Do you guys own any preferential media or preferential matchmaking tier 8 premiums? And do you regret owning them now since the new meta of premium tanks came out? I'd be curious to know the answer to that there, because I do definitely prefer tanks with the tier 8 to 10 spread over the tier 8 to 9 spread. And it's kind of weird because I actually don't think I own any of the new premium tanks. Well, the FE4202 technically counts, but that's not overpowered unlike the heavy tanks. But I find I prefer the Lova over most of the other premium tanks that I have in my garage right now. It just seems to be the most consistent vehicle for me. Even though the gun pisses me off sometimes, I do like the tank, so I consistently drive that one. Like that's my personal favorite premium tank in the game right now. But yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else I really need to say. So let me know in the comments, as I said there, about the answer to that question. Like, what do you regret owning the preferential matchmaking premium, or do you think they still hold up today? And yeah, that's pretty much everything. So thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.